At first, all you see is a great white light. It is ringed by blue, then white again, and you are slowly drawn away from the beam. Contentment would be an understatement. In your very heart of hearts, you know that everything is as it should be. You know that the ride is under control, that there will be no more sudden stops, no more fear, and you exit the time of uncertainty with a gentle halt and the sigh of air brakes. A night sky envelops all that is above, auroras and comets and diamonds against black velvet. As the beam stretches on into infinity from the material plane, you see in this sky that the beam tapers and ends. Below, encircling the beam, is a vast circle of marble, lit as bright as the day from sourceless points above it. 31 marble pathways stretch out from the beam like wheel spokes, each a path to the realm of a god, all gently lapped at by calm, clear water. Miles away, the lighter gods' realms are like shining stars of castles on hilltops, and the darker are distant mountain peaks in storms. You see the never-ending fields of grain stretching across rolling hills from Chunatea, the first stacks of waist-high bookcases before they stretch up into inconceivable heights from Ayun. Nothing but a small hill and void-like cave mouth, as Lolth will always exist underground. Each realm with its own flavor, and perfectly suited for its master and their followers by design. Of their followers, you see small blips of light, like fireflies, flow from the beam, each following its path down each marble walkway and into their eternal life's rest. Here on the north point of the circle, around the beam, is a peninsula, upon which a grand circular table rises from the floor and takes form as you watch. This is quickly accompanied by large oak chairs. There are 31 seats here, some of which are quickly occupied, as you are in heaven, and the gods are congregating here. Your own gods call to you, not by name, as they seem not to notice that you are watching, but in your soul, for this is where you are supposed to be, and you are always supposed to come to them, even if the time is technically not right yet. Vivian is beautiful, doesn't even begin to describe her. Halfway between Phoenix and Elven Woman, her dark hair is a waterfall of black silk, and her eyes shine royal purple and gold. Just looking at her, even from this distance, you smell passion for it. She is naked as the day is long and has conveniently placed feathers that cover particulars before blooming into a plumage that glitters like gemstones, blood red so full that it almost drips while it flows into majestic purple. She taps her sharp and glossy red nails on the celestial marble, humming the song Toxic by Britney Spears. Gond appears as an elderly black human, white hair and sunspots, broad but withered shoulders, wearing a starched white button-up with sleeves rolled above his elbows, and around his neck hangs a sturdy canvas apron. Just being in the god's presence makes you remember WD-40, the warm dirt of a garden, and sawdust. In the many pockets of his apron there are any number of tools, chisels and a mallet, a small spade and ladle, all the way down to tweezers and a few well-worn paintbrushes. Gaunt has deep smile lines and looks upon everything with soft, warm, appreciative eyes. McCool, who was once one of 2 skeleton gods, has traded his robe and scythe for night-black slacks, dress shirt, a trim vest overlaid with tasteful purple embroidery, and a silver bolo tie, the pendant of which is an amethyst cut in the shape of a skull. His dark hair is combed back with slick pomade, and though veins of green strike up his neck and forehead under pale skin, the tips of his ears have turned black, and a patch of skin from his nose to right cheek is peeled away, leaving dry red cirrhosis. He smells more like dewy moss from an old forest than decay. There's a small smile resting on the god of the apocalypse's chapped lips, while he protectively wraps his arms around the shoulders of his champion, who sits in a smaller chair next to him. And as he does so, he looks to the other side of the room and observes the god of the preservation of life with patient resolve. Stephen sits a bit huddled, happily leaning into his god's embrace. He's also dressed in all black, but wearing some moccasins, flannel pants, shirt, and Merkul's comparatively gigantic suit jacket, which fits him like a cozy bathrobe. He's drowsy looking and a bit out of it, but that's probably for the best. The man is a wreck. Bandaged nearly head to toe, the few black feathers he still has are crinkled and frayed, and tufts of blonde hair poke out from under layers of gauze. He looks like he can probably walk, or at least hobble. His wings and limbs and several fingers are braced so they heel straight, almost like a broken china doll held together with tapes and popsicle sticks and hope. He looks even younger than you saw him last, as far as you can tell with the wraps covering half his face and left eye. He went from nearly 60 years old when you met him in Edgewater, to 25 when he resumed championship in Stone Garden, and now, from the bit of him you can see under the bandages, he's maybe about 18. Stephen is the only champion here for some reason, and you can tell there's a bit more going on with him just on the aura, and maybe there's something to that. But the other gods do not look surprised to see him here, even though their own champions are not, or that Merkul has skin now. The news must have spread. Other mortals in the room include, however, King Henry, Garfield, and a man you do not recognize. King Henry and Garfield look frozen in wide-eyed horror, terror, disbelief, and all other adjectives describing completely caught off guard. Appearing with King Henry is the small table he was leaning his elbows on, the stool he was sitting in, and Garfield is holding a screwdriver with one hand, while his other is wrist-deep inside King Henry's chest. Henry has pulled his overshirt over his head, but has left his arms in to just expose his back, and Garfield has apparently been adjusting something inside of him as there is a toolbox, several pieces of the machines you designed for him, Bastion, set to the side. You hear King Henry tentatively say, "This isn't that shit where you drop something inside Bastion and weird things happen again, right?" "I didn't drop anything this time, sir." "Put me back together, please." Garfield quickly performs his request, and King Henry puts his breastplate and cloak back on. They look unsure whether to reach for weapons or run, and all Garfield has is a screwdriver. Garfield is, by the way, wearing a neon orange and lime green high-top shoes, skinny jeans where one leg is black and the other is red, a burnt orange and brown plaid t-shirt that he has left unbuttoned almost to his navel, and decorative goggles on his head, separate from the actual science goggles he removes from his face, revealing blanch lines, and lets hang around his neck. Garfield always wears protection. Just as they stand, an angel approaches them. Verdant, radiant, apparently a servant of one of the nature or flora and fauna or otherwise green gods. "Please, come, have a seat at the table. Your presence is a blessing to us, King Henry Creathazar. I do apologize for the inconvenience and surprise. We attempted to minimize the destruction this meeting would cause you, and will deliver you back to the material plane safely and with great haste. Do not feel pressured to speak or mingle. Everyone has been informed that you are unprepared for this, and should not judge you for it. And, Mr. Garfield, we apologize for bringing you as well. But at the time of summoning King Henry, it looked like you two were in the middle of something, and we did not want to interrupt to a point that would threaten King Henry's mortal health. But you are more than welcome to sit in, since you are here." This is a dream, right?" "No, sir. You have been physically summoned to a meeting of the gods, an event which has not happened since the crisis." "What do they want?" "Your audience. All of the gods want to speak to me specifically." "No, sir. You were invited to the meeting, but are not the subject matter to be discussed. You do not have to speak at all if you do not wish to. Do not fear." Which means they could explain it better than I. I don't want any part of this. Send us back now, please. I do not have the authority to make that decision, but should you ask and should they allow it, I would be more than happy to take you back early. Henry swallows, trying not to look at the heavenly sky, the heavenly earth, the beam above him as it ends, and the massive beings that appear about 50 yards away. Who the fuck am I supposed to ask? Gond has called this meeting, and so he will be delegating and presiding. We have allies with Gond? And Garfield nods to this. Who the fuck wanted us here? The angel starts to answer, but the other mortal man that none of you recognize approaches, and the angel concedes to him as this man with an angel's respect is, instead of being afraid of being in this room, he is struck with wonder. And not at the gods, but at Henry. To see you with my own eyes. To see you with my own eyes, the man nearly whispers, overwhelmed with the ecstasy of fulfilled desire. He has dark hair that sweeps back into gentle curls, stubble that is meticulously purposeful, and wears military-like dress clothes, though he appears without rank. The gold trim at his lapel, however, would indicate that he was someone of import nonetheless. In a room with every god, Henry sounds somehow even more surprised as he hears the voice and has a grim epiphany. Wise man. Correct, King Henry. More than a simple doctor, I see. Much more. It is at this moment that dread locks into every fiber of King Henry, but at the same time, he's not surprised. That's unfortunate. You should have told me who you were long before now. There's so much I could have helped you with. Your war could be over tomorrow with my help. If you're that powerful, I don't want your help, more than likely. Secondly, I have a guess, but who are you really, if you're not a random doctor? This man takes great pleasure in his speech. To start on who I am the son of an oracle. She actually suffers from the same affliction that your father does, the maw. My condolences. Thank you. And to you as well. It's encouraging to see your empathy. One more thing we have in common. At any rate, her earlier prophecies helped me survive all throughout my childhood until I found my own power. Extremely troubling family dynamics, you understand. Though there had always been something her vision showed that I have been unable to get by myself. I need help. I seek help from someone desperately, and I have been searching for that someone for nearly a decade. The prophecies of my mother told me the man I needed help from was somewhere on a high, cold mountain, that he was of distant orcish blood, young, deathly ill, only ever wore black, and looked exactly like you, Your Majesty. When I heard that there was war on the North Continent, of Golgari, I couldn't care less, but of Thunderscrim, a mountainous fortress far beyond the cold line, ruled by a 19-year-old king, the commander of the Black Army, with white hair, yellow eyes, suspiciously long canine teeth, and a terminal lung disease. It's you, King Henry. After all this time, it's you. Well, you found me. But you still haven't told me who you are, Son Corellian. This Son Corellian man extends his hand as though he's going to say it while giving King Henry a handshake, and Henry begrudgingly starts to extend his own to get it over with, but Garfield clutches Henry's arm. Don't let him touch you! Henry pauses, but then gently pats Garfield's hand to tell him to let go. and slowly but less than confidently crosses his arms, following Garfield's advice, and leaving the Sonnenkrellian hanging. You see recognition in this man's eyes. He realizes who Garfield is now. Swallowing this, he breathes deep as he shows his hand. Your dear wrench monkey could tell you who I am. Henry looks over and Garfield is bored straight, shaking, frozen in shock or something else. As always, Henry keeps a slightly annoyed poker face. I'd like you to do it. After a composing sigh and gathering his smile, at last he admits grandly, I am Claudius Fortinbras, Emperor of Sonnenkrell. I am here because you are my soulmate and I will become a god with you. Henry nods. And how are you here? The Emperor blinks, extending his hand further and stepping closer. You're not the least bit excited, King Henry? We're soulmates. We're going to be a god together. Do not touch me, first of all. Answer my questions and then I'll answer yours. I had hoped the reports of how paranoid you are were exaggerated. But even if they aren't, I will go ahead and apologize for my eagerness to meet the man I'll spend eternity with. I suppose we are diplomats first. Still, after all. And I've known about the prophecy far longer than you have too. I forget that I was also perturbed at first. How did you get us here? I assume it's your doing. Sonnenkrell is the most sun-blessed land in the world. Pelor is worshipped by over half our 12 million strong population, and before I knew I would one day become Pelor's kin, even myself. I understand that our form of worship differs from his worshippers in Acadia, but as God influences their people influence the god in return. I promised him that we would be allies when we ascended, and so he occasionally blesses me with information on current celestial politics and the like in exchange for me allowing certain privileges to his followers in my empire. When he mentioned there was to be a meeting of the gods, I asked that we, though not gods yet, be invited to attend. I see, Henry says with a suggestion of a death glare to the god of light. King Henry, I desperately want to get to know you. Not only do we share power, but powers. I am very strong in the way of the Dane. We could meet at any time, now that we've met here. I can astral project to you from anywhere in the world, and I can teach you to do it too. I shun my accidental powers. I have only used them by accident, training myself so there would be less accidents, and once to save my own life. So no, you cannot teach me, because I refuse to learn. And let me be clear, I do not want you to project to me, ever. Men have been shot for much less, Emperor. The prophecy isn't real. I do not want that. It will not happen, especially not with you. And I had hoped the rumors of how against the supernatural you are were false also. The rumors don't do me justice. No, they don't. I understand that completely. I forget the stories they tell about me too. The propaganda you Northerners get fed, it's insane. The very people you are fighting your war against are the ones feeding you these lies about the South, King Henry. All of you, Thunderscremians, Macadians, the rest of the world. I meant to extend an olive branch. Show you the real Sonnenkrell. Garfield, among a dozen other defectors, have told me enough. Thanks. And you think Garfield is a normal, common, level-headed average person? You think someone who was banished from our paradise would not have damning things to say and bitterness and retaliation? I'm willing to bet his fashion sense might be a side effect of the 50 years of torture he and his sister endured at your great-grandfather's right hand. But other than that, He's a loyal, generous, extremely intelligent man and a shining citizen of Thunderscram. I had the honor of swearing him in myself but a month ago. You, of all people, should know that our grandfathers are not ourselves. Henry, I am the same man you would speak to over the sending stone. The very same. I am not all-powerful, even in my empire, Henry. You think I don't want change? You think I don't see the plight of my people? Even in an empire, there's politics. Imagine the bureaucracy of your own kingdom, how bloated and inefficient it is. Now imagine one 15 times the size. I'm trying to make changes. I want change. And you're the one who can make me strong enough to actually get things done. Imagine what we could accomplish together. For our own citizens, for the world. But I can't do it alone. Why you so enjoyed speaking to me, why I so enjoyed speaking to you. It is lonely at the top, King Henry. More than anyone ever. You and I understand that. And while I'm willing to compromise and go back to our pattern, the easiest way to communicate, Henry, I can speak to you face to face. No. You lied to me in a sending stone. That's the fastest Thunderscram approved way to communicate. Do not use magic to ever speak to me again. You lied to me too, Henry. I omitted facts. I did not ever lie. But you're the one who wants to talk, Claudius. Compromising is your problem. More importantly, as I said, the prophecy about us is false. I chalk it up to gods wanting people to doubt me, Golgari propaganda, or some cosmic mistake on Oracle's behalfs. Lots of interference with the Maw these days. And even if it was true, Emperor, I will happily die before we so much as breathe the same air. My dear, my soulmate, I beg to differ. Then beg. You want good for your people? You're helpless to change your own empire? You say it's lonely at the top? You have 200 children that you raped 100 child brides to make. Hang out with them, you freak. Better than that? Divorce them. Send them back to their parents with 15,000 platinum and free fucking therapy for life. Go public with what you want. With the number of executions I've heard about, surely you can kill off any corruption until people are willing to work with you. You're not only a liar, you're fucking disgusting. You're not worth the soil you stand on, and Macadian soil even less. By the stones in my bones, you will drown under snow. I would not insult me if I were you. That's my first of all. And my secondly is that Macadian culture is so... Have you ever even seen an orc before? Other than in books about Soncarillian genocide? Your people are enslaved and starving, and you have champagne on your breath. You don't need me to insult you? You're pathetic enough. Your cursed blood and northern brainwashing is something I've been preparing to deal with. I forget that I'll have to break you of your dirty habits, King Henry. The Emperor dramatically begins to morosely pace. I meant to come with goodwill at our first meeting. It's such a pity we have to argue about nothing with all of our pissing contest politics. I think I'll win any pissing contest we get into, seeing as you've got a tiny cock and all. The Emperor pauses mid-word and step, staring into the middle distance and blinking as he processes what Henry just said to him. And it's as though he pretends he didn't hear it, and continues along with his dramatic monologue. I had such hope for... You were always so polite over the sending stone. Kind, truly. All those times you were happy to have someone to talk to, someone who would treat you like an equal. You told me your family basically ran a mining town, and I daydreamed ceaselessly of showing someone as modest as you how to really live as a king deserves. I was a friend. I was someone you knew could never turn on you and kill you. That was important to you, I remember. You are afraid of every single person you know, save for your poor father. Trust? Fear? Henry, I am that person you can trust. Implicitly. The only one in this world that would never want anything to happen to you, literally under any circumstances. You are everything I've ever wanted. And all I want to do is give you everything you want and keep you and everything you love safe. I want us to be friends, Henry. I would do anything. And I may be the first person who has meant every word when they said that to you. Is Garfield's sister alive? Lucretia? And Garfield falls to his knees with his hands over his mouth. The Interceptor's creator? I remember they were siblings, nothing else. Yes. No one has informed me of her death, though I had heard she was put under closer surveillance. We almost lost one of our most valuable scientists after investigators realized she reneged on a suicide pact with a disgraced academic turned tinkerer lunatic who's not dead after all. Henry takes Garfield's hand and drags him to Vivian and Ilmater, ignoring the gaze of 25 gods, ignoring Claudius following them, and he coldly looks up to cosmic beings that, in their smallest forms, tower 10 feet above him sitting down. The Elf people still have her clone. The two gods blink a bit as they realize he's talking to them, and Ilmater, a haggard man with a brutalized body wearing nothing but broken manacles and a loincloth, nods. Henry turns and puts Garfield behind him, shielding the man who is quaking from the situation alone, not to mention the company they're in. Henry allows his rage to come through his voice to the point where he nearly spits. You know what, Claudius? There is one way you can continue to talk to me. We'll send letters. Nice, beautiful letters. Letters that I will read to all of my soldiers and friends when they come. It'll be like fucking story time. Through these letters, we can arrange for Garfield's sister to come here. And maybe, after that, maybe we can start more in-depth diplomatic relations. Probably not, because I know you think I'm the key to a lock that doesn't exist, but if you send her, you can also send me your weird soulmate love letters. I'm probably gonna burn them, but you can send them all you want. You know what? Claudius looks frustrated and distracted by the gods looking at him, but forces himself to calm. Clone, huh? Yes. When she dies, she goes into it? Yes. Garfield whimpers before covering his mouth with a quaking hand. Claudius sighs. I'll have her executed at once. Henry's eyes narrow, and Claudius irritatedly adds, painlessly. Upon her receipt, you can write me anything you want. And you know what? If she's treated gently, and knows what's happening before you kill her so it's not so traumatic, you can even send me another sending stone. Can't guarantee that I won't drop it in another river someday, but I'm landlocked for another few weeks at least. Claudius takes a deep breath and looks back to Pelor, the titanic being made of light, who stands behind his chair across the room. Pelor waves his hand, and Claudius disappears from existence. Henry then stands with nothing to do but hold a quaking Garfield, barely avoiding eye contact with Pelor, and Ilmater breaks the tense air as he offers a newly materialized chair to the son of his champion between himself and Vivian. Henry accepts, tensely shaking hands with the god who drove his father insane, but who is reportedly the only god he has respect for at the same time. Vivian helps Garfield into his chair, patting his head and combing his hair with a long red nail. She takes a small feather from behind her ear and tucks it into the strap of his goggles with a smile. Garfield is left too awestruck to be afraid anymore, whispering, "Thank you for saving me." He gasps and turns to Elmater too. Thank you both. For my clone, for my sister." He chokes up again, and Vivian soothes him. "It was no trouble, baby doll." You see Claudius appear again, near Pelor. He looks as if he wants to go across the UN-style circular table to talk to Henry again, but a medium creature-sized chair manifests, and so Claudius sits between Pelor and Sylvania. Henry remembers and asks,
"Why did you tell me not to touch him?"
Garfield is currently being pet by Vivian like a cat, curling him close to her chest with her long dagger fingernails caressing just the right spot, before she presses him into her side to hold him more fully, and he's glowing with joy almost too much to speak. Henry and Elmater are too modest, and can't look at that level of Vivian's body, so they can't look at Garfield while he talks, but the man says, I was afraid you would combine when you touched. I could see it in his eyes. That look when he is getting something he wants. I think he hopes so too." Henry nods, face turning to even harder stone. Name placards appear in front of them and the other gods, even if they presumably know each other already. You may notice that while a few chairs and name plaques are still empty as the gods arrive, Vecna and Tiamat will apparently be absent. The last god to arrive is Mechanus, a colossal being made of gears and crystals and wires, a sundial of a centurion fan on his head. Your light, Chunatea, a stout woman with a rosy blush that matches her burgundy dress, with a magnificent scythe at her hip, says, "I am on time to the millisecond," Mechanus says defensively, showing her one of his 30 or so clocks that are implanted up and down his arms. "Even if I had been late, I would simply make it so that I was not. And, to your message about the droughts in Heroth in this planting, take it up with Umberly. I submitted the schedule request, but she had a high-pressure cell in the bay, which I refuse to be blamed for." To which Chunatea rolls her eyes. At last, Gond stands to call everyone to order. "Thank you all for accepting my invitation and meeting with me in this place. And I apologize for the surprise, King Henry. I was also not made aware that you and Emperor Fortinbras were going to attend today, until Pelor announced it upon his own arrival, and you were summoned." All Henry can find it in himself to do is sharply and unamusedly laugh. "Ha!" before he sits back and wipes blood from his nose onto the back of his hand. "I have requested all of your audience here today to discuss the Maw. We have long been at a stalemate on information of what it is and what threat it possesses. It was to my understanding that you all had agreed to come forward with any information you found, and since no one has had anything, the conversation had come to silence. However, while there is still no concrete news, we must discuss the small information that has come to light, and steps that have been preemptively and unilaterally taken to combat it." Ayun, goddess of knowledge and looking every bit like a grand librarian, asks, "I cannot stave my curiosity, God. Many crises have come to pass. Why have you gathered us now, and not taken a part in 1,000 crises before?" "I made this universe, this dimension. My rule has long been complete. What happens to this place afterwards is up to those within it, with Merkul to gather up the mess." Istis, the god of fate, gasps, a figure in a black burqa, the veil hiding the galaxy behind her eyes. In her shock, she pauses her weaving for what may be the first time in centuries. She looks at Merkul with a twinge of fear, as all the rest of the gods do, or tried to hide that they are doing so. Only Tyr, Albal, and Vivian are not so surprised, as they have heard this before. "So, it's true." Gaunt pauses and turns to Merkul also, then to the others. "You didn't know?" "No!" Iomde, white and gold-robed warrior goddess of law, cries as though surprise evidence was just brought up in a court. "No, we didn't!" Gond looks to Merkul again. You never told them?
I didn't want to cause a panic.
Merkul shrugs, cracking his dry lips to smile. Pelor stands now, rising to his full height above Merkul, and crosses the table. The dead god doesn't move, rotted arm still around half-rotted Stephen. He just looks up and keeps looking smug, even if he has to squint with new eyes. And even in the face of the god who destroyed him, under Merkul's hand, Stephen is not afraid.
You think you can take me. You think you can withstand the full force of the 40 million souls in my army?
Merkul just sighs, with a sense of satisfaction.
You'll have your eternity, Pelor. Millions of years, billions of years, a trillion or two, maybe even. All of your millions in happy, blissful eternity. I know it seems like it now. The first souls to ever die haven't even begun to flicker. But even soul light can't burn forever. And when your eternity is done, when at last even you fall into peaceful, blessed, eternal sleep, I will be there to turn off the last light.
I don't believe you. You're lying. The world won't just disappear.
You don't have to believe me, Pelor. You don't have to believe what my prophet has seen either. You can ignore the word of God, too, even though he, the creator, just woke up after 6,000 years of napping to tell you. You don't have to believe. Which I think is the best part.
Pelor lunges at the dead god, but in a blink he is back in his seat. All the seats have been rearranged, and are now made of mahogany. Gond is standing and cracking his knuckles reproachfully at the god of preserving life, and Pelor is obviously mentally debating if he will or has to listen to Gond, as he is usually the loudest voice in the room, but does Gond having seniority mean anything? In the pause, Emperor Claudius stands, supplicantly for probably the first time in his life. If I may, maybe it just hasn't gotten to my ears yet, but what prophecy is this? That of Merkul's previous champion? Describing what is likely the Maw? Gond says carefully also.
I told you of this.
Pelor says with eyes narrowed in confusion. If someone were to remember incorrectly, it would be me, Claudius says with a modest chuckle. But I feel I would remember that. You realize that Henry is mumbling something to the mater. Gond asks with a twinge of uncertainty, do you not remember either? Bastion did have the fleeting question. And Carolina, Vivian says.
Hale knows that too.
Merkul agrees, incapable of not sounding smug to basically everyone, but he drops it in favor of gentle sincerity to Henry.
You've read the prophecy 3 times now, and you keep forgetting. Apparently. And apparently, for some reason, Claudius does too.
Does anyone else have that problem? The gods look around to confer with each other. The consensus is no, and no one is sure what to think about that. And how were some of us notified of the prophecy before others? Tempos, the god of war, every bit of fur-cloaked Viking but carrying a belt gun on his back, asks, I thought we agreed to share tactical information, unless one of us is employing deliberate subterfuge.
A little Genzai of mine has been working hard to try to get the word out to all of you.
Merkul says with a wink to Tyr.
You always think it's a trap when I come bearing news, so I waited until enough of you were concerned, so the rest of you would listen to me. The prophecy came to my champion many years ago, yes, but it was not until the son of Stephen reread it and told him of it that I realized it had finally become relevant. I would have brought Pale, since he was instrumental in letting this come to light, and asked his friends' parents if they could come too, but since they haven't been imbued yet, they'd probably explode with all of us in the same room.
They're out of time to boot, Vivian says. We can show them when they're ready. It'd be boring to sit through all the exposition anyway. Albal Lurafirl, elf form at the moment, shrugs. I would have brought Leo if he didn't have disappearing disease. That's why and how Garfield's here, just in case anybody was wondering.
You brought us?
Henry asks with ire.
You? With the chaos you'll make? King Henry, it was an honor.
And if I hadn't jumped at the chance, Pellar would have done it personally. Consider that a favor from me to you. Henry balks at the implication that he is, while unconsentingly, in debt to a trickery god.
Don't ever kidnap me again,
Henry says as strongly as he can, giving the only threat he can think of.
If Leo ever comes back, he is solidly on my gray list.
You got it. Last time, boss man. Ayun asks Albal. Now that you mention it, how has he not exploded? How have you shielded him? What, like it's hard? Everyone just rolls their eyes at the trickster god. Henry seems to be filled somehow with even more trepidation.
How have I and Claudius not exploded as normal men? I assume Stephen's championship.
He's actually sort of a demigod at the moment,
McCool says proudly with a little rocking motion of Stephen's shoulders.
I took on a degree of mortality and gave him some of myself so he could go back to the material plane and heal after someone put him in a celestial wood chipper.
I'm glad to hear you are killable.
Pellar growls under his breath.
Oh, don't worry. Skin in the game or not. No matter what you do, I will someday kill you, and there's literally nothing you can do about it. Play nice, and I'll do it at the death of the dimension, instead of going after you before eternity. Will I succeed? Probably not. But it's going to be a huge pain in the ass for you, believe that. Also, King Henry, I would like to talk to you at some point about some business to do with Stone Garden, without saying too much here.
If I am thinking of the right thing, I have already agreed. But if there are more details, then we might as well while I'm here.
Thank you.
McCool says with a smile and a head nod, extremely happy about how Pellar doesn't know what you're talking about.
So, us ordinary men?
I would hardly call you ordinary, Lolth says in a near teasing, flirty way. Her long purple tongue flicks at her lips, and the spider fangs coming out from her human waist of her horrible centaur-like form rub each other in tandem with her rubbing her hands together. These abdominal fangs as wide as her arms, and each crab-like leg as wide as a man. In a feat of brilliance, Henry keeps his voice steady in the face of her.
What's that supposed to mean?
Henry, the power flows through you already. It is delicious. Do you have any idea how many centuries my daughters have thirsted after Thunderscrim power? Not even the Ethereum shard. The Mithril monopoly alone. The giants and orcs as slaves. And now your pretty little kingdom has even more tasty power with you. How inspirational for my priestesses. Henry fights panting, but orders the god of domination, darkness, and spiders.
Tell any commander loyal to you that all that waits in Thunderscrim is death. Unlike your undercity chuckle fucks, I'm not an elitist bootlicker. King or no, son of my father or no, all I am, and ever will be, is a man. You would gain nothing more than consuming me than 100 pounds of meat, Lolth. So tell the DOL's priestesses to stay the hell out of the highway, and we're more than happy to add Nagamesh to the list if any of them break our deal too.
Lolth is more curious than anything, looking at Henry like he's even more tasty, but spicy now for defying her. You sit in the room with every god in this dimension, and you dare insult us? You command me? As a mortal and still at my very mercy?
You're damn right, bitch. I am a mortal. Nothing more, never to be more. I hope the false reality you built to deceive me collapses, and I implode right here just to prove you wrong. I am mortal, and so I should explode. Who is shielding me? You just said no one but Albal knows how, How do I know that's not a lie?
King Henry, Istis says, you persist of your own power. None of us have hold over you. The evidence of your destiny is being proven right here. We could not make a vision such as this to you from the material plane, and so you are here physically. Even with our powers combined, we would not risk driving another god insane. Mortal you may be, but the threads of fate often fray and stretch. At times what is after pulls tension on what is before. This makes the weave pull taut when all is finished, even if the weavers do not think on it at the time.
Well, I'm not a tailor. I run a mining town, lady. Anybody who thinks I'm going to be doing anything but running a mining town is a fool, and that is you included.
Ioun asks curiously, do you think you're dreaming, King Henry? That this is all a fabrication?
The possibility is very close to my mind, rest assured. Though I would say the same thing, even if I did know for certain, just on principle.
This meeting is real. We are all here. You are in Celestia. At Pelor's sponsorship, Emperor Claudius's request, and Albal Lorifil's hand. The truth is one of the many things I know.
And it's just a coincidence that I don't trust any of you, and hate more than half. The rest I merely resent.
Soon, goddess of love, the only one capable of being more beautiful than Vivian, and even that's debatable. She wears a velvet medieval noblewoman's gown. Her long wavy hair is pinned back with stars. She knows Henry well, and speaks to him gently too. Even so, King Henry, please trust that we only mean to preserve the ones we love. Henry's rage-screwed face fades to just a hard jaw again, and he accepts Soon's plea to let the meeting continue. Gond stands and grips his podium, straightening his note papers. Portions of this prophecy of Merkul's champion I can confirm. The universe is made and fades over and over. There are credible rumors of other dimensions. This aligns with less credible rumors which state that even other dimensions will collapse as they end, amalgamating as this dimension does, so that dimension collapses on dimension until a great core is made and a new series of dimensions spawn from that when it breaks apart, a larger cycle that ours exists in. It had not occurred to me that you would not know the universe's eventual fate upon your conception, but it makes sense that Merkul would not warn you for fear of retaliation. I know death is a terrifying concept, but hopefully with your pseudo-end made clear to you, you can gain the perspective of the world as mortals see it, which is something, as their guardians and shepherds, I think you all have been lacking. You are powerful, Pelor, as is everyone in this room, but you are not all powerful. None of us are. Pelor says nothing, merely narrowing his eyes and keeping his arms crossed. So after a beat, Gon continues. Souls were never meant to be pulled from the Ethereum Stone. The stone holds all souls before they are born, and it powers the beam which powers the universe. Depending on Rakul's success in causing the total apocalypse, some souls never end up being born. After there are no living souls in the material plane, the astral plane, ethereal plane, and planes of elements and magic will cease to function. So those souls go back into the stone, and the reverberant energy within the stone powers the beam in Celestia and Hell after the material plane and adjacent planes go dark. When these run out, power transfers to the souls still in Hell and Heaven, and those pockets of light exist until their energy is used up also, domain by domain for us, and circles in Hell. That is when the last light goes out, so to speak. When this happens, Merkul is able to gather up the shell of what once was, reality collapses in on itself, and a new stone forms for the next version of myself to start again. This entire process, of course, takes several trillion years. Taking souls out of the birth queue not only changes destiny's fate and the like, it also changes how long eternity truly is.
And the more souls you have in your care after the beam goes out is how long you have to live, if you don't consider being born again in the next universe. I don't know what I'll be like in the next one. I don't remember the past iterations, I just know they happened. So, myself and Merkul may be the only constants, where we may have been completely different and they were just entities that had the same purpose without being truly us. I don't know. But yes, we as we are now will all die one day. A day that is inconceivably far away, but a day that will still come. And so, with people stealing souls, they are also stealing the potential life force of their comrade gods, and restricting how much time that the beam and the planes that are powered solely by the beam will exist. If all of the souls are taken from the Ethereum Stone, no more people can be born, and that would in turn cause a separate apocalypse far before it is supposed to happen. Many accusing faces turn toward him and Pello roars.
What good is time if the maw swallows us? What good is power if we're all consumed?
I'm not saying you're wrong, Gon says. The threat the maw poses, as the prophecy implies that dimensions are collapsing incorrectly due to it, is the greatest threat we've ever faced. It may be worth it to damage this world in order to preserve it, and perhaps all others in the long term. To move forward with this is up to you all. I make the universe, but it is up to you what happens within it. I just wanted you to know everything before you made that decision and continued this course of action. It affects all of you, and you all need to be aware of it. One troop of 3 mortals cannot carry every message. St. Cuthbert, an old man in white robes seated between the Raven Queen and an empty chair with a placard that says Vecna, dares to ask, wanting to know of any compromise. "Can you put them back, Gond?" "I could." He glances tellingly at Merkul, "but it would require taking many other things apart. As Pelor said, we may need them to stop the maw. But if we do stop it, we also have to live with what's left. This is the conversation we're going to need to have. We don't have to settle on it today. There are still more questions on what the maw even is, and how it was made, and if this is even a way to stop it. All the power and existence and beyond may not be what it takes, and it could be something more simple. But we do need to decide if the soul-taking will continue, stop, or at least pause. We need to get down to what steps we're willing to make if they are indeed necessary, and if we can live with doing them if they work. This is a meeting about preparing options and finding ways to work together." Gond now slowly looks at the empty seats of Vecna, Tiamat, and then pointedly to Luz, the god of suffering, and Tempos, the god of war. Or who we need to keep out of the way. Tempos stands. "War with the maw will be my greatest challenge. The warriors will sing as they dance in the blood of the dark horror like it's rain, I can assure you. If it has blood, I suppose. We shall find a way to make it bleed, if not. I know darkness, death, famine, disease, and pain follow my work. But so does victory. So does healing and peace, which, deep down, is all even the darkest and cruelest raisers of weapons want. Whether they know that or not. Luz, the god of pain and suffering, who is just a lithe woman in dominatrix gear, asks, I cannot bring harm to the dead, so no matter how wonderful the moment of death would be, I also want to stop the complete apocalypse. That's good to hear, Gond says. And Lolth, I know already you're thinking about how to ensure only Drow survive, but think instead, who will your precious dark elves enslave then? Who will be left to conquer? Who will be left to dominate? Even my people make alliances when times are tough. But do not expect us to be more charitable than survival demands. That is all I ask. He turns to Vecna's empty chair and glances at Henry, Vivian, and Elmater. If we are stooping to stealing souls from the Ethereum Stone, we can't forget about the near 2 million locked away. You're fucking joking, the Raven Queen starts, a woman in black robes and white death mask. It's an option on the table for us to consider, nothing more, Gond calms her. The room pauses to consider. Gond looks through his minute notes and supposes while it's on his mind. Another quandary,
I'm actually grateful we were able to have you here, King Henry.
Why?
Your war. Your war against the holy city that teases threatening religion as a whole. Despite your beliefs, founded or unfounded reasons, it's not for me to say or dictate. But those in power in that city are nearly irreplaceable in terms of their knowledge and skill. A time may come where we need them there to...
You have had 6 millennia to help material planers. Those irreplaceable people have spent their entire lives helping themselves, and not those they've exploited to rise from the very beginning. You won't do it, so I will. I'm not waiting. I'm not putting it down. For all I know, every bit of this is a ruse to make me back down. You have had all the time in the world to plan this. Every minute of this could be a hallucination made by any one of you. You said you couldn't do it in a vision because the Maw might drive me insane. You say you don't know what the Maw is or how to stop it, but you justify crimes against the universe, abduction and spiritual rape of unborn children because of it? Maybe this is a vision because of Sankarel. I'm only here because of him. You're all going along with it, or he's fooled you as well somehow. It's all a vision, and the real versions of you aren't present at all. Any god could be making the fucking Maw and lying to the rest of you about it. It could be a fucking psyop from Sankarel that explains why their state clerics never get the vision, when all along it's because we thought they were just unknowingly being heretics. You fuckers could have faked it and driven my father insane, because you knew he would have done the same thing that I'm doing, and he would have been better at it anyway. Every bit of this could be purely because you want to destabilize the only atheist nation. You could even be lying to each other or yourselves about this. Maybe you're putting it into existence by thinking about it after someone else put the seeds in your mind. Even easier is that mortals aren't afraid of you anymore, and so you had to invent something to protect them from, to make up a reason for them to need you. Even if it's not all a lie, if not now, then when? How many other people have you asked to wait? Even if it's real, and it's harder because of me, you have no one to blame but yourselves for not doing something sooner. When Golgari surrenders, and if the Maw is even real, then yes, we will help and stop the apocalypse. But we are not helping by twiddling our thumbs and watching your people starve to death only to be cast into hell for the privilege. To have their souls stolen, to have their infants stillborn ripped from them to stock up as ammunition to fight a force that might not even exist. You may be doing this just to make yourself stronger, Pelor. Every bit of it is a ploy to take power from everyone else here. Once you found out that time has an end, you're using every straw man to justify it, distracting everyone with me and Claudius. Preservation of life or no, you aren't lawful good. Not anymore, if you ever were. You only want people to live so that you can live, and you don't care what you have to do. You're worried about your own life, and we all fucking know it. Fuck you. Fuck what you're doing. I don't care if you people decide soul stealing's okay. It's not fucking okay. And I will kill anyone I come across caught doing it. My army will hunt them with prejudice as we destroy Golgari to the last cornerstone to end your priests' atrocities and injustice. You should be ashamed of what you're letting them do. You're gods. I don't fucking care about your excuses. Fuck you.
You would endanger the entire dimension. You are an ant. A diseased, corrupted ant that directly wants to destroy the hive. I was going to leave you to my priests in Golgari. Let them prove themselves and bless them with the satisfaction of killing an ungrateful, bratty heretic. I've left Thunderstorm alone just to show the world's people how degeneracy flourishes without faith. Your city only improved with Omater's influence. How much do you crave to deny that? I was going to leave you to Claudius, give him the pleasure of completing his quest himself, and taking you while your army and country dissolves. Do not make me smite you beyond memory, maggot, worm, blood stain. There will be nothing of you left. Your soul will be broken into finer grains than sand, and I will sprinkle you so far across every plane and star, so you will be lost beyond even me repairing you again.
You're gonna let that stand? Henry chokes on a laugh at Claudius. You're gonna let your master destroy me? You're gonna sit like a good dog and let him take everything from you? Where's that partnership you told him we would have? How happy you were to get his help. You fool. I will anger him until he kills us both.
I will get him in line, Claudius darkly and humbly promises.
Is Pelor gonna be happy about spending forever with you and I'm half of you? My trash talk has only begun, Pelor. I haven't even started killing your people yet. Just wait until you get a load of me after 1,000 years. I'll sing infinity beers on the wall into your heads for eternity. Attaboy,
Albal whispers. Pelor nods as if to agree that Claudius will get Henry in line, or at least he better. Vivian also looks proud of Henry for standing up to Pelor, and just then she and Ilmater give a start. It is done, the broken god says. New bitch! Vivian cheers with her eyes wide as she turns her sight inward and presumably watches her followers attend to reborn Lucretia. Garfield screams and falls out of his chair. Unable to resist taking away Garfield's suffering when he is right there next to him, Ilmater picks him up and takes the sobbing man aside, quietly narrating in real time for him what his clerics are seeing on that side. After that pause, Gaunt backtracks. King Henry, we will acknowledge that you are refusing to end Thunderscram's war. Please be aware that while I would do nothing to stop it, and will still watch over Bastion as he has chosen to fight for and with you, others today will not be so passive. Fuck around and find out, Henry says to Pelor's face. Pelor only looks to Claudius with an impatient glare. And to speak more of the prophecy of Elder Michael,
I can go get him if you like.
Merkul offers, then shrugs.
Though I know everything he knows, so...
If you know everything he knows, then why didn't you realize the prophecy was relevant until now? Ioun asks.
He didn't remember writing it, so I didn't remember him writing it, and then he never read it again. His journal was in the Golgari vault for 20 years, unread by your people the whole time it was there, by the way. Then when it was in my lovely Stephen's possession again, he was unable to read because some Pelorian priests sold him into slavery as a toddler, and he got brain damage from being kicked in the head by orcs. I also didn't even give Michael the prophecy myself. He just got really high, and he happened to have a pen handy.
So it could all be the ramblings of a crackhead.
But a crackhead who wrote of things that few people know or knew, that he would have no way of knowing about, and that seemed directly relevant in this moment.
Like what?
Albal manufactures and hands Henry a copy of the prophecy with a flourish, smiling even more. You're gonna do great things with this, he says with a bit of glee as Pelor makes a copy for Claudius, and Henry begrudgingly begins to read. Henry's copy has, of course, been written in Comic Sans. After giving them a moment with it, Gond begins to read notes he has prepared. I believe in this section, the they Michael speaks of may be the great old ones, such as Cthulhu. I feel as though I was here first, but I noticed them quickly after I started and did not make them. They were there as long as I remember. However, I also did not make any of you just came into being as I did, only after me and within what I had made. We have previously thought of them as being beings outside the planes we rule over, but this suggests that they may be outside of our dimension entirely, outside every dimension and able to see all of them at once. I believe this means that they take souls not just out of the planes, but outside of our and every dimension, reducing the total number of souls in the Ethereum Stone each time that the cycle starts over, possibly immune to even the possible complete combining and subsequent breaking apart of every dimension the larger cycle our cycle could possibly be in. And perhaps they are similar creatures with roles to Merkul and I, only for everything and not just where we are and what I have made, which brings the terrifying possibility of they too being a small part in something larger, but I digress. The Black King.
Could be me. Wouldn't it be hilarious if you forced me to become a god and that's the very thing the Maw is? It's us, me and Claudius. If this is all made up by you, Merkul, it's a nice touch to have the only source of information we have come from someone the others would normally doubt, your own champion. The unbelievable part makes it more believable, the pretending it's not you part.
The dead god leans forward to ask,
Does your doubt or accusation affect our deal?
I hesitate to call it something so full as a deal, but no, it remains the same.
I'm not offended then. But it's not me, as unbelievable to all of you as that is.
I don't know. I would kill one of us just in case. Don't want a monkey's paw this. Belor stealing souls could accidentally end up being what the maw is too. Maybe you eat too many and turn into a black hole, or pulling them out breaks the whole thing. For talk about war in heaven over you doing this. Maybe you guys fighting causes it.
St. Cuthbert, god of compromise and teamwork, says to everyone as they start to jump at each other's throats, For now, let's operate under the assumption that it is a tangible foreign threat, though looking out for subterfuge is always a good idea. To which Henry dramatically rolls his eyes. The raven and the dog. Sylvania, the most elf to ever elf, leads with a side eyebrow to the Raven Queen. I know nothing more than you do about this. I have lost my own Zadok to it, and near the same time Ilmater lost King James. If I knew a way to end this, believe me, it would end and stay ended. Besides, there is no god of dogs to my knowledge. I agree with that point. The phrasing indicates that they are of the same level or type of being. They seem to be equals and allies, whatever they are. Ayun notes. I do not think the Black King, the Raven, and the dog are any of us, though King Henry does raise a point about himself, and Thunderscrim has a history with your followers, though of course not so much anymore.
The last we spoke was seeing if Zadok and Dad could talk to each other. And by the way, anybody, if this is a plot to control the Ethereum Shard, I'll find a way to fucking send you where Vecna is.
Speaking of that, this green star and the white thread could be the Ethereum Stone and the beam. Bahamut, a straight-up platinum dragon, says while motioning to just that. We can assume, going off that there is a flaw in the Ethereum Stone from somewhere. Whoever this raven, this dog are, they convince the Black King to jump into the beam, and that creates the maw, presumably outside our dimension. And that one was destroyed, and is now headed our way. That, or this vision is about this world, and has not yet happened, but could. Ilmater seems hesitant, dread at even saying it aloud, but everyone knows it already, so he regretfully looks to Henry before adding, The mother took the shard. Queen Maria. There is debate on if his body merely holds the shard, is the shard, or if the shard was sentient the whole time and just chose him as a vessel when Grandma touched it. As perhaps, like with many in my family, he was possibly originally supposed to be stillborn. I will, however, say again, I don't even know what to threaten you with, but just to say I told you, leave my father alone. As long as he doesn't jump into the beam anytime soon, I know I won't, Moradin, god of dwarves, says with a shrug and a forced laugh. Other gods do not make any promises, and Henry is obviously daydreaming of killing priests at the moment. Being a phoenix, Vivian says, I think I understand this. Presumably, something happened or will happen so that the last light went or goes out before every soul's faded, like it's supposed to. that Merkul, the Ender, will be forced to bottle up reality before anyone is dead, and while dead, and unborn souls are still conscious, and presuming this is part of a larger cycle where all dimensions eventually collapse, if we don't break the maw here, however that's done, dimensions will continue to collapse before the souls in these other dimensions burn out too. So this Giga Ethereum shard from all dimensions either never reforms and the cycle never starts over, or it will eventually, but I assume being awake and being hungry until our and every dimension's souls burn out after trillions upon trillions of a bajillion years, actual infinity eternity, assuming there are a great number of dimensions other than ours, will be hellish. If only we knew when and how it'll come.
Perhaps we could locate some cultists of the Great Old Ones. If they're outside, can see what they know.
And perhaps claim eminent domain and study King James with or without Thunderscrim's permission. There is nothing stopping us from saving our entire dimension but this slanderous contamination hemorrhaging our every move.
Henry stands, and Pelor stands, but then over half of the other gods stand up in support of Henry. Iomde decrees, useless in the hands of an atheist, anti-magic mortal, maybe. But no, Pelor. Maybe someone will take it someday? Maybe it'll pass to Ilmater, as the mortal king has promised him, and probably only Luz has a problem with that. But no. Despite our disagreements, agreements, feuds, and friendships, as we decided in the aftermath of the Crusade, you are already far enough ahead. You will not hold the shard. Someone else will. And truly, in anyone's hands but a stalwart Thunderscremian's, inbred backwoods, xenophobic, ultra-violent, trigger-happy heretic rednecks they may be, the power of the artifact could release enough destruction that it would be antithetical to your very cause. We all wish we had it. I think I can speak for everyone as I say that. But we have ignored it since the crisis and left it in the Puritans' hands because a struggle for it on our end would rain more death and destruction than the crisis did itself. Maybe someday that will change, but I, and I don't know who agrees, but I, will protect even a blaspheming naysayant of a Thunderscremian to keep it out of your and several other of y'all's hands. It is just too much power to gain at once. And over half of those who originally protested agree with Iomde on that too. Pelor sits, and so Henry sits, and all the other gods sit down with him. Henry, for the first time, appears to be grateful to a few of these beings. That is, until he remembers that all of them could be just a ruse and just to make him relax before all 30 of them descended on Thunderscrim while he is trapped in Celestia.
Why couldn't we have picked red as the royal color? Henry emptily mumbles to the middle distance he is staring into. Why did Grandma have to touch a glowing, radioactive rock while she was pregnant? Why does this shit always happen to us? I have to find someone else who also wears black, and whose mother also touched a green rock once, so they can get distracted and leave my goddamn dad alone. I'll keep a lookout too.
Ilmater mumbled to agree. He was also suddenly worried about King James's safety. I can assume then, Gon says, that we will not be letting Pelor unilaterally pull souls anymore. And not a single voice disagrees. Gond then opens his hands to address all of them in a more broad way again. Who is in favor of continuing the pulling of souls if they are also allowed to do so? Pelor, Umberlee, Tempest, Lulth, Ayun, Luz, Solinari, Nuatari, Moradin, Eridan, Sylvania, and Mechanus raise their hands. 12. Gond says, and we can assume that Vecna and Tiamat would also be on board if they were present. Everyone shrugs to this, so Gond amends himself. 14. Would those wanting to stop under all circumstances, and those who would just pause for now, please raise your hand. Middle grounders are Pan, Cord, Soon, Chunatea, Tyr, Ilmater, Albal, Lorifiril, St. Cuthbert, and Bahamut. And the always anti-soul stealing are Timoira, Iomde, Istis, Raven Queen, Vivian, Gond, Merkul. And the Dane is always 50-50 split, and I will assume King Henry and Emperor Claudius, you are split as well? They both nod yes. Very well. 12 for, 16 against, 2 null, 2 absent. Pelor, we will expect you to stop taking souls for now. I have heard some of you demand that Pelor distribute the souls evenly between all of you, and I recommend we table that until it is declared that this will stop under all circumstances among all of us, until after fighting the Maw, provided we survive, or until such a time that the threat has otherwise passed. I would like to propose meeting again soon, after giving our champions and other key mortals time to research and debate this matter, when we will perhaps also have more information on the Maw as well. At which time we will vote again and propose alternatives. All for? And all but those who have declared themselves always anti-soul stealing vote yes to have a new meeting to discuss more in the future and to vote on soul stealing again. They do not say when this meeting will be, as the gods break and move into groups, either going immediately to their realms or staying a moment to play politics. King Henry pats Garfield's shoulder to tell him to stay put, as it appears that Ilmater, Merkul, Vivian, and Albal are going to hang out together for another moment. Henry walks decidedly to Gond, and it just so happens that Gond was presently headed that way as well. Henry demands,
You made every soul? He motions with a glare at Claudius. Is it true?
Would you believe me, even if I tell you? That raises a concerning point to Henry. He dips into the horror that is uncertainty for a moment, but wrenches himself back out. Either way, I want your answer. Gond nods and begins. All souls I carve from the ether are of different sizes and strengths. The largest ones are very powerful. The smallest dust becomes the mice and birds. Some of the larger I split so that they may have the joy of finding each other, and the very largest of them I cut apart so they don't become too powerful unfairly, to protect the smaller until the smaller lift them up. They must influence others to gain their strength. Gond shrinks down to the size of a large human, placing a work-calloused hand on Henry's shoulder. Henry slaps his hand away, and Gond relents. You were one once. That is true. However, rest easy in the fact that there is no way he can force or trick you into joining again. You must be willing, not even tortured to giving in. Willing. Though I suspect you will have a hard time believing me when I say that. Henry nods to assure Gond that yes, he will forever be paranoid. Gond continues to console him. King Henry, I have no idea what souls we were like in life when I carved them. Their entirety is made when they join with their body and is built throughout their life. But know, Henry, that you are his opposite in every way. Gond pauses to correct himself. Every way that would matter to you. I can accept that. Gond nods to him, and Henry walks away. Ilmater then stops him before the king can walk back to the group. He had been waiting a respectful distance away, but now, to level with him as well, the broken god takes a knee on a heavily injured leg.
Henry, I wanted to say I'm sorry about James. He loves you more than you could ever know. And certainly more than he can currently express. Henry snaps in a mere second. I don't fucking forgive you, and I never will. You should have told him to stop. You should have told him to stop responding. I don't give a fuck if he was on his knees begging you to talk to him. He can't fucking talk to anyone now. And if you're the god of suffering, then you should know that you're actively fucking causing it. Not just for my family. The entire fucking kingdom suffered because of Grandpa retaking the throne. And even with me, because I'm not half the man Dad was. I don't know what I'm fucking doing half the time, and everyone knows it. When I die, it's supposed to be Marceline, but there is a 30% chance of civil war after my death. Another reason to get the army out of town before then. You didn't just fuck us, you fucked the whole kingdom. I'm sorry, Henry. That doesn't mean a damn thing to me, Ilmater. If there is something I can do, just ask. Something you can do? Find a way to fix my dad. And in the fucking meantime, does Vic still actually worship you, or is he just pretending? I still hear his prayers. Is he plotting to kill me? No, King Henry. Despite his rakish attitude, which he uses even when he speaks to me, he does actually love you, and sees you as a son. He does not want to kill you, he truly does not. Though he has admitted that he would if it came to it. What's his definition of coming to it? Doing something that could directly endanger Marceline, or others of his blood family. Well, it's something I don't want either. He does not want to kill you, and truly wants you to succeed. He absolutely does not want to be king, and you being in charge makes things easier for his growing daughter. I'm taking that with a grain of salt, because I don't trust you, but okay. My anger or no. What you've done or no. We still have an alliance, but I'm never gonna like you or trust you. That's fair. And they share another awkward beat before Henry huffs and walks away. He finds himself back at the Apocalypse God and just kind of shrugs at him, a bit tired by this point. Now what do you want, McCool? McCool begins brightly and immediately gets to the point.
I had an older version of Stephen's body, which has been resurrected and is currently in the hands of my followers and here often. I'm keeping his consciousness, though I have put certain parts of it to sleep at the moment with me, until I can leave him with you, because spiritual healing cannot control the pain he's in, and he absolutely cannot control the psychological trauma he has acquired.
Older version?
Henry asks hesitantly, not sure he wants to know, but also unable to not be curious.
When I first made him my champion, I made a new body for him as his original one was extremely damaged by the orcs. I kept it in my domain, however. It's been sleeping on a chase lounge for the last 40 years. When he became my champion again, I de-aged his second body back to its prime, but this one was obliterated by Glamor Lestern. With the state he is in, I am hesitant to create a third body because he may not adhere to it even at full strength, and so it would be outright dangerous to do it now. They have been able to heal many defects that his original body had much easier without him being in it, but no matter how they heal his body from the wounds Pelor caused while he's not there, As soon as he returns to himself, the damage to his soul corrupts his body and he's covered in burns and bones break, etc. When healed magically at this phase, the wounds will leave but then immediately regress again. This beat of healing they can do in the moment does minutely heal his soul, but when the body is damaged again by the damaged soul, he is in absolute ravaging agony. Leaving him unhealed would not destroy him, however. He only dissolves to a certain point and goes back to only that point when the magic is gone. So he could be healed slowly instead of healed and broken over and over. He has almost died several times due to shock during experiments with this. And, it's traumatizing to be unmade. Truly, he is much worse than he looks now. This broken projection is as well as I can make his soul, even here in heaven. If he were out of range of me, it would be hell for him. My hope is, of course, that your doctors can do something my clerics cannot, is keep him alive and keep him from going insane with pain while he heals slowly. I wanted to ask how the best way for him to arrive and what your terms were.
Taking a moment to absorb all that, Henry shakes his head to clear his mind.
I already told Pale that Stephen can have exactly one other Merculian with him for company. I won't be lying to my people about his presence, but I will be downplaying it as much as possible. If a single Thundersgrimian is harmed by him or your people, or if we discover any influence of you meddling with anything in town, plotting against us, or anything of that nature, we will throw him into the snow, if not directly kill him. The two of them will be expected to abide by our laws the entire time they are there.
I will ensure they behave. Thundersgrim's aid will put me so far in your debt that I will openly swear not to look at your kingdom unless it is going at the rest of the world.
I'll hold you to that. That's a big promise from someone like you.
Nothing would bring me greater joy than the end of the world, but Stephen is a close second.
I know you lie, but I hope we are both able to keep the promises made this day. Not for anything between us, because again, I want nothing from you, but for him.
I do too. My people in here often are capable of teleportation. I understand Soon's champion has a permanent circle set up there?
And Ilmater apologetically interrupts. My priests on Mount Dunateus also have a teleportation circle. With King Henry's permission, I will send whoever I have that can help him.
We can speak on you guys doing stuff to him through your priests.
Henry nods and continues.
Mercul, your people can teleport outside the gates, but no further. Stephen and the one other can come in from there after being searched. My guard will escort him and his companion to the hospital, and your others that teleported and came with him will then leave. What ceremony does he need to be reunited with his body?
None. I just send him down. No fanfare, he just wakes up.
Good. Well, have that happen at the hospital for the first time so they can stabilize him there. And we will send him to a safe location further from town for the rest of his stay. If you need to change out who's with him, then they will be accompanied by guards in and out through the front gate, same as they came in.
Perfectly acceptable. Generous, even.
Good.
Henry turns to Stephen, who's been awkward and nervous and uncomfortable about people talking about him, even though he's only half there.
Are you alright with that?
Thank you. Really, I didn't even expect you to say yes.
The people of Stone Garden owe you, Ash Barlow, and the fighters of Kashintki for your sacrifice. So by extension, so do we.
It was worse because of us. The Golgarians and adventurers and mages came because of us.
Stone Garden was always going to be a massacre. Donald Denham's army was always going to lose. They wouldn't have killed the princess, but I'm surprised Donald made it out alive, and he wouldn't have if not for the Mercadian rejects. Golgari was always going to come, not in the force they did, but they were always going to come. The escalation you caused, however, drew enough of them to where many parties can no longer claim to be neutral, as they would have deep into the war before turning on us. The people have realized how deep the corruption goes, how overreaching Golgari's become, and we will be able to confront them outright and in smaller groups. Our enemies revealed the positions, had great losses, and the miracle of the rebels lasting as long as they did with the trained soldiers Ash Barlow brought with him, and then his and Gilbert Kane's leadership greatly drained their resources and spread them thin while also inspiring others. The Blue Shields are practically decimated, and fully pulled out of several towns they were contracted to protect by holding Stone Garden, and to the anger of those civilians who are now exposed to more crime, if they weren't, pissed already. We will actually be more prepared with the time their losses bought us, and will advance with an angrier and more willing populace. All of that without passing our previous estimates of civilian casualties. The escalation turned out to be a good thing, for us. And for now, at least. Even if we are not in your debt, Mr. Puyo, I know very few people who've endured as much as you have. Truly, my father is the only person I can think of who compares. So, someone treating you kindly and actually trying to reform you for once is long overdue. I believe that you would have reformed after your initial capture by the Pelorians, if not for the cruelty of those in Golgari. I will say it to your face, Merkul. Stephen only loves you because he was a broken, abandoned, traumatized, mentally disabled child, and the Death Fist showed him the first kindness he ever knew. Not because you were actually good. If someone else had rescued him, he would love them instead, and hate your name as everyone else does. You did not care for him. You only enjoy his company because of how he grew to appreciate yours. Same goes for Ash Barlow, from what I know of his story. However, that's just my opinion, and whatever possibilities, it doesn't change what happened. They were the ones who saved him, so you're his savior at the end, and your manipulation of him has worked out for us too, for the moment.
He would be manipulated, as you say, by any faith that found him.
Which is why I'm atheist, respectfully. Henry turns to Stephen again. Are you going to be able to stand the reverse of people proselytizing to you? I withstood 35 years of it already. Fair enough. I don't feel manipulated. He also assures Merkul.
I wouldn't force you.
You let me leave in the past.
I was always with you once you were free of Pelor. Even when he had you, I was close as I could be. But I would fully leave if you asked.
I won't.
I love hearing you say that.
Being an enemy of Golgari makes you an ally for now, Henry says to break the awkwardness of Stephen glowing a bit at Merkul's last words.
Thank you.
Thank you. Of course. He then turns to Soon, Vivian, and Albal after that. You guys want a fucking heart-wrenching conversation too?
Vivian and Albal, gods of chaos and rebellion, tell Henry in tandem and with the exact same inflection, You're doing great, sweetie. And Henry isn't happy about that, but accepts it either way. And if you don't mind being a messenger, Soon says, please tell August I love him. It's hard to say it without giving him direct visions. Also, August is thinking about buying your father a gift, but is stuck on what he should get him that he hasn't gotten him already. I was trying to tell him not to worry so much.
August could give Dad a rock, and he'd love it, and go around telling everyone what a great rock it was.
So, fuzzy socks and some snacks?
That'd be great.
Henry tries to keep his bored tone, but does end up smiling just a little bit as he imagines his dad happy.
And try to get some of the snacks to be healthy, because Dad hasn't eaten much lately.
I'll guide him to those. Thank you.
Of course.
Albal's about to snap his fingers to send Henry and Garfield back, but the slowly built contentment edging on happiness god powwow is cut back to depressed and angry as Claudius makes himself known again. Henry, could you please stay for a while? please? I don't even mind if your allies stay for every word. He motions to Garfield and the gods who are on Henry's side, and most of the gods who are against soul stealing have gravitated over this way as well.
I'm leaving immediately, or at least as soon as one of you takes me home.
Henry is annoyed at his helplessness, to say the least. Can't you just imagine what our domain will be like? Where it'll sit among the others? What will we tell our priests to make the holy symbols like? Who will our first champion be? Our prophets, holy books?
I have everything I could ever want from you, Claudius, assuming Vivian and Omega are telling the truth. I will have nothing to do with you. Nothing ever again.
You promised.
I'm a politician. I lied.
Henry, we will be together for eternity.
No, we will not.
I understand your trepidation, Henry, especially with your culture. I'm sorry for insulting it before. I know you were born in it. Henry, think of all we could change together. You want to help the people of Thunderscrum and Acadia? Think how much you could do by working with me.
Yeah, with us being aligned to Pelor, fat fucking chance. What about the people of San Carel?
What do you mean? My people are fine.
We have very different standards of fine.
Well, why don't we talk about it? Tell me all about how it should be, Henry.
I'll send you some books.
Or we could just talk.
I never want to talk to you again. We will never speak again, Claudius.
I will astral project to you tomorrow.
You absolutely will not.
I haven't wanted to say this because it feels so confrontational. But it's not magical. It's just self-control. You have nothing that can stop me. It is as simple as me sitting on my floor and thinking about you, Henry. You and I will be a god together, and nothing you do will... Henry takes out his pistol and shoots Claudius. The shot echoes across the meeting space. The gods that are here turn but do not flinch. But nothing happens except for the bullet passes through the Emperor to hit a god-sized chair behind him, and after a beat, Claudius smiles. Claudius takes a step forward and Henry fires again. Claudius barely flinches each time the lead slugs pass through him, but they still harmlessly do. 10 steps away, and on the last bullet, Henry turns the barrel to his own temple. Claudius at last freezes.
It's this fucking easy, Claudius. I pulled the trigger, and every hope you have is gone. The only reason I'm alive is for my people, for my family. I'd rather live, but I'm more than happy to die to stop you. You will never be a god, and I will make sure of it.
Henry, you can't kill me here. Or yourself.
Take a guess what I'm doing when I get home. You wouldn't. No?
You can't. That, and as we're out of time here, I'm out of patience.
Merkul steps forward, giving Pelor pause, and keeps Henry, Garfield, Stephen, and the other gods behind him.
I think that many of us agree that Henry should live for the moment. But directly attacking another god, directly interfering with another god's domain, is a declaration of war you may remember. In this case, it would be killing one before they can even start, but attacking one generally makes everyone else worried that they're going to be next. Making everyone worried about what you're going to do might have serious consequences, Pelor. I'll remind you that you have made a lot of people upset today already. I would worry more about replacing Glamora and researching the Maw. Claudius and Henry can figure each other out themselves.
In the faces of all of them, Pelor hesitates, and so Claudius avoids escalating conflict first. He backs away, giving Pelor an out by obviously making like he wants to leave.
You can't stop this, Henry, Claudius says either way. It's destiny. It's written. We are gods, and you can't run from this. I'll find a way. And if you make any attempt on me, I will kill myself before you can get what you want. You act like your death will stop me. You don't need a god's protection. You won't stoop to ask any one of them for help. Then I'll find you in the astral plane, Henry. I would prefer you willing and alive, but if I must find a way, I can astral project. I can walk through the veil as easily as walking in my bedroom. I've been looking for you for half my life. Even death cannot take you from me now. I'll win you over. I want us to get along, as I said. But now that I have you, I am never, ever, ever letting you go. And Pelor snaps his fingers, and they, along with almost all the light in the room, is gone. After a long look at the space where they were, Henry says emptily, "Take me home." And you're not sure who does, but suddenly Garfield and Henry are in a sunlit tent, their tools and furniture around them once more. You do not hear the distant singing of angels, but the far-off shots of training marksmen and the chatter of soldiers. Henry still has his hand cannon out, pointed to his head, and spins around the tent's room with it, frantically clearing every corner before just pointing in one direction and staring out for a moment. Suddenly he flicks the barrel out, and sure enough, only one bullet is unfired. The one he'd been saving for himself. Can he do that? When I die, can he get me? Is that... No. He slams the gun on the table, and after grabbing some ammo, he angrily reloads it, shoving it into his holster. A cup of half-drunk coffee is nearby, and he sucks it down before throwing it on the tarp floor. Henry then stands with his hands on his hips, unable to pant with mechanical lungs, but he stares at the map of Golgari on the table with a sliver of Song Corel on the southern edge across the bay. Breaking his panic attack, Garfield is in his own and whispers, "You remembered my sister's name." "Of course I do," Henry almost scoffs, spinning around the tent with the gun drawn again, hands shaking as he waits for whatever is to come. "You..." Garfield seizes up and falls to one knee, speaking through tears. It's an honor to serve, my lord." Startled, distracted from his terror at last, Henry turns his wide-eyed expression to Garfield, putting the gun away, but more gently this time. He breathes before grabbing Garfield's shoulders and pulls him up, and then into an awkward hug. "You're not a servant, Garfield. You're a friend. And even if you were a servant, don't bow to me, that's cringe." They separate, and Henry keeps a hand on Garfield's shuddering shoulder. "I made Max work, and he didn't even remember my name then. Lucretia made the Interceptor, and he mispronounced hers. I know I was rambling when I made adjustments the other day, but I didn't think..." "I was listening." And Garfield sobs a bit. "I'd be dead if it weren't for you and the rejects. Several times over. I won't forget that. Also, we apparently just went to a god meeting together. If that doesn't make us comrades, then I don't know what would. You might be the only fucking person who's gonna believe me and not think I'm crazy. Like, if I'm not actually, or I'm about to be, from the metric fuck ton of information and power we were just exposed to, who the fuck do I tell about this first? Everyone already thinks I'm crazy. You are, but that's okay. How the fuck do you stop people from astral projecting? Why? I have to call Grimgar. What the fuck? Why is it always me? Why the fuck does this shit happen to us? Why? I would ask why, but I know why, and it's because they fucking hate us. Fuck. I'm gonna burn down the next church we see, no matter whose it is, on principle. I swear to fuck. Fuck. You were so composed while we were in there. How the fuck did you just shit-talk every god? I'm fucking shocked I didn't piss and shit myself to death. I mean, maybe I did, but I just haven't realized it yet, you know? I mean, like... When a stiff breeze could kill you, people telling you they could kill you just isn't that threatening after a while.
Yeah, but I mean, like, a god could smite you and everyone you know off the face of the fucking earth.
People that I know? Good luck.
Garfield squints upward and tallies a few numbers on a few fingers before alternating between grimacing and shrugging in thought. To all that, Henry says,
That bearing is still clicking inside of me, and it feels like I swallowed a pocket watch or something. And if I'm gonna go insane from, like, this panic attack I'm having or about to have, I would like that fixed first.
Garfield jumps, remembering what they were even doing in the first place, and helps Henry take his armor off again. I think there might just be a burr in there, an imperfection in the original machining that's gotten worse from wear. I could replace the housing if that's the case too. Have I told you about Z-axis bearings?
No. But you can now if you want.
Setting Henry's cloak down again, Garfield pauses and looks around the tent like he's just now realizing where they are, looking at all his tools and diagrams while Henry pulls his shirt over his head again and sits down. You just met every god, surely you...
I think it'll help,
Henry says distantly, reaching for another coffee cup.
I like listening to you talk.
You're the first person to ever say that.
Your voice makes it hard to think about anything else, Garfield. And I'd rather think about whatever the fuck a proton is than existential doom.
Now that sounds more accurate. And now a message from the DM to the players. I already know what I'm gonna do if you guys try or accidentally fuck up the events leading to this vision. I have already figured out how this vision will be completely accurate, unchanged, and when it will take place, no matter your level of success in any of your endeavors. So keep in mind, Bastion, that though of course you have no idea when this is taking place, though Henry has the machines in successfully now, and he actually looks better already, that doesn't mean a goddamn thing. Carolina, if you are successful in keeping Kara and the other Vivianites from killing Henry or not, that changes nothing about this vision. You could entirely still fail. Pale, you could attempt and even succeed in killing any NPC in the game, gods included, and win or counterspell again doesn't mean a goddamn thing. No matter how you guys fuck up the future, this still works out exactly as you have seen it here. Or does it? Is my confidence a ruse to lull you into a false sense of security? Have you even seen the surface of how cruel I can be yet? How much have I held back on just how dark this story could become? I have found side paths and workarounds for every thrown loop so far. I have honestly been railroading you, and I can't make myself fully believe you guys when you say it doesn't feel like it. Can I do it again? Can I find a way to where, even if you fuck up, things still work out okay? Or will you at last fully see the consequences of your actions should you truly fail? Or have you broken something already? Is it already too late? And it just hasn't been made clear to you yet. And when you hear this, remind me to have you roll many wisdom saves. Good luck. And thank you for being my friends. Hey, it's your GM, Bailey Ford. I would like to thank our regular players, Darian, Matt, and Ian, Hip for our cover art, and Tabletop Audio for our background music. You can find us on Twitter at @CIllithids, and thank you especially for listening.
I actually like hanging out with Garfield. He makes everyone else stay the fuck away from me. He's almost always in a good mood, respects my boundaries, he's good for a joke, and is actually really tactically minded. Garfield's cool. I don't know what y'all talking about.